everybody, Scuff D here, what up? And got ourselves a little short stuff going on. We got a few things to touch base on, not really much. I mean, today we're going to be talking about the results of my Istvaan V poll. Top 3 cards, player choice cards for the Istvaan V expansion, kind of following up with the poll I did last time, which was the set 1, or Istvaan 3, basically. The top 3 cards, player's choice from that. So rolling into the next set. This is the first expansion that was in the game. But before we get into that, really quick, shout out to the devs, shout out to Everguild, shout out to all them Discord players who woke me up this morning first thing at 4 a.m. Deck slots are here. We need more already, guys. Look, so it's hot. It's hot. It's got me going. But by all my counts, well, hang on just a second. Hold that thought. Get on it, because in addition to the deck slots, which are great, and I have yet to dive into, I want to, and then I went to work and I was like, you know what? I gotta leave early because this new event, this Canis Vertex Unleashed event, has got me going crazy, and I had to get into it. And then I got home, and then I was like, I got real life stuff. Damn it. I got real life exists. We have to do things. So clean up the house. Then I dove into it. Then I'm doing this video. Then I've got D&D tonight. Then I'll do some deck slots. I got slots to fill. I got thoughts in my head. I got thoughts for my slots. It's a lot. I got a lot of thoughts for my slots. Best begot. So, with that being said, let's talk about this Canis Vertex Unleashed. This is actually really big for the game for a few reasons. This is the first raid-style event. And raid, people have got different thoughts as far as what is a raid event, what does this mean. But this description here, boom, sealed deck format. Calaphilus binds his soul to Canis Vertex, an ancient warlord titan to defend Tizca. However, he succumbs to its power and is now attacking friend and foe alike. You must use all, band together, and take him down. Canis Vertex will fight you at some stages of every event run. Each victory against it adds points towards a global tally. Reach milestones to unlock new cosmetics and collectible warlords at the end of the event. Okay. What does this mean? So, in each step along the way, you see these little caution exclamations, which normally don't exist in the event. What they are, you get one here at the very first, and I believe at game 4. So, 1, 4, 8, and 12. You get an exclamation. And then you face Canis Vertex, which is a Reaper. I believe it's a Reaper level Titan. And forgive me, the one area of lore that I don't have brain space for or efficiency at is the Adeptus Titanicus. I'm really kind of hazy on that stuff. Those are my dailies. Where did I get? Do I have one? I should have one on here. There we go, Canis Vertex. So I'm going to fly through this as quick as I can to show off what, and there's other players who are doing streaming who could actually give you some breakdown as far as how to fight it. I just want to show you what it looks like. I'm using Son of Muspel in this most recent run. Before that I did Bjorn, did 7 wins with Bjorn. Currently on 6-0 with Muspel, who I like for that fact right there. Damaging all, and that adds up. It's a great way to remove shields for 2 energy. So anyways, boom, this is your warlord. You're going to encounter this guy at each of those points in the game. Game 1, Game 4, Game 8, and Game 12. He's going to get, as far as AI and abilities go, he's going to get harder at each of those points. You only get to face him one time. If you lose that game, you don't get a chance. You go back into that same game, win victory 0, and then you're facing a normal player. So it's very important when you go into those games, give it your all. Try not to throw them. Don't give up. gun it hard. You're going up against an AI. The AI will have some strength in those later games, but if you have gotten to the 12 wins, you should know what your deck is capable of, and you should be able to squeak it out. Use your strengths to the most of your ability. Because, and I encourage everybody here, because we're all working in this one together. This is very important. Each of those wins along the way, and I'm just rigorously tapping this fast forward button, so I'll stop when the game wins. Each of those wins along the way is going to net a certain amount of points. 10 points for each victory. 100 points if you're doing a 10 times run. So basically 10 times what you're equivalent out to. Your VIP or veteran status does not contribute to the points in this game. So you're not going to get an additional 50% points towards the global tally. As players accumulate those points and those victories against Canis Vertex, more points will be added. Normally, how we have that bar, and I'll point it out here after this game concludes. Normally, we have that bar that shows which side of the victory the event is swinging. Is it chaos? Is it loyalist? That'll influence what the reward prize is. In this event here, we don't have that. What we have instead is a tier level, basically. So there's, I think, 5, and they're awesome rewards, and we're going to take a look at each of them in just a momento. That's not proper. That's just not proper English or Spanish. So just ignore that. In a minute, we're going to take a look at what those tier levels are, and let's finish that game off. So it's important. So when you get to Vertex, give it your all, because your victory, my victory, our victories collectively matter, and those are going to give us these rewards here. So we've already unlocked, as a group, as a collective, within the first 14 hours of the game, we've already gotten this victory. 100,000 victory points across the board, global. And this cosmetic has now been added to the game. LCFR, your lodge now has a banner. Ordo Sinister. I know you mentioned that on the Discord, and that is true. Ordo Sinister. I don't think Trader's End is actually within the game. It would be nice if the top lodges actually had banners like that. You just picked a lucky name, man. Yeah. But whatever, we'll get our due somehow, some way. We'll figure out how to declare that there's an homage in there. If Havoc gets Havoc Squad, and Ordo Sinister gets a cosmetic, Trader's End needs an event. Oh, that's what we need, an event called Trader's End. Oh shit. Oh shit! Everguild. Somewhere down the road, an event called Trader's End. That's hey. Just saying. So this is the current event this is the current reward that we're getting on, is this cosmetic. Now if you notice, both of these cosmetics here were ones that were not part of the victory, or they were not chosen by the events in which they were released. I like this cosmetic a lot, actually. So when we get to the 300,000 points, as you can see, there's a little ticker here. That's only how many more we have left. I think globally we're going to hit that within the hour or two. This will be added to the game, added as in terms of added to crate rewards that you may achieve through these. Some of them may be added into the Prospero crate expansion crates later down the road. Next level, now this is the chick who is really just irritating all sorts of folks with the last event. Lucretia Ulinari, awesome ability. Very easily, I expect this at some point to be nerfed and adjusted, but it's a great ability. She's a neutral warlord. She's Imperial Army. Very nice. And she is the next tier beyond that. I don't think we're going to have a problem hidden 3. Hidden 4, I don't think we're going to have a problem. Again, another neutral warlord, a tech priest. What? Tacitus Proctor, who's also got a crazy ability. Low initiative, but he kind of needs to have low initiative with his ability. He kind of should be going second, because otherwise he's just going to have a huge advantage. Looking forward to having this guy in the game. That's 2 warlords added to the game. Boom! Final, if globally we hit this awesome power, this awesome collective, and we achieve 2,500,000 points worldwide, Canis Vertex, that warlord that you just saw me fight, added to the game. That's right. You can have yourself a possessed Warlord Titan. He's not a Reaper, I'm sorry. Reaper, no. Warlord, yes. Warlord Titan. Added to the game. He comes with that loadout, the Flaming Claws and the Laser Blasters, and just a crazy, stupid ability to give shield for 2 Psyker energy to a Warlord or Titan weapon. Now, you'll note, he's not 1,000 Suns. He's a Chaos Warlord. So, I think within the scope of the game, I don't expect him to be able to play 1,000 Suns cards once he's actually available to us. I could be totally wrong. But, basically, he's just got a free shield every turn. That's nothing wrong with that. That can be very problematic. Especially with some of those loadouts, what the Flaming Claws do and the Laser Blasters do, it could get crazy. We've got Titans. We had Titans as an event. Now we've got them coming to us in the game if we can collectively hit this, and I don't think we're going to have a problem hitting this. To go with that, Everguild did mention that they did not clarify 100%, but they did mention that there would be some of those rewards that we just saw here. Boom. This one, this one. I don't know why am I showing them to you again, but I'm just boom. All 5 of those, I don't know, but at least some of those 5 will be rewarded to the top 10 lodges. Way back yonder, when Captured Mandragorax was added to the game, he was rewarded to the top 10 lodges who received him, which was his ability had not. He saw a boost because his ability initially was a negative. He had, if you do not have any troops in play at the start of your turn, you take a damage. Basically, kind of like a weird maintenance upkeep, and he was a Chaos, and Chaos has terrible troops. So he had a limited life counter. He's in a better place now, but he came out that way as a legendary warlord. And he's been in the shop, I think, about 3 or 4 times. Usually in the veteran shop is when he's available. So he has been available for purchase, though very infrequently. However, it's very potential that Canis Vertex might go to members in those top 10 lodges. It's very possible that we won't get Canis Vertex, but we might get Tacitus Proctor and Lucretia. It's a stretch, but it would be pretty crazy if we got all 5 of those rewards for the top 10 lodges. I don't expect that. That's probably asking too much. I think just having those added to the game and available at some point down the road, whether it's through purchasing of crates, and Everguild, did mention that if you don't get these guys within the top 10 lodges, that they will be doing special sealed decks within the shop that you'll be able to purchase to get Lucretia, to get Tacitus Proctor. I don't know if they would do a sealed deck for Canis Vertex, although they could, and I think people who would want to do it would pay. And I would hate it if they charged $19.99, but it's a legendary, and given how that falls, they could, but I really hope they don't go down that road. I really hope if they're going to have $9.99 decks, it would be Lucretia and Tacitus Proctor, and then have Canis Vertex just start out as a collectible warlord. But that's huge. That's huge. First off, this reward system is new. This is the first time within our game, and I know there's other people who've played, Hearthstone, or I don't know what other games are out there. I really don't play digital card games. I've waited forever for a good digital card game that I can sink my teeth into, that I'm a fan of the lore. This is the first one for me, and I've stuck with it ever since, and I really enjoy it. But this is the first time that we have got this style of tier rewards here, and that's very important because it's a group effort, and we're all on the same side now, as opposed to it's a group effort, but it's kind of dictated by what decks actually win, and usually there's always like one side that has a better deck, and ultimately that swings the reward, and there's not really any sort of vibe of like, oh, all the players are collectively playing Chaos, all the players are there's not really, you don't really feel that. You're just playing games. Now in the course of these little normal blank games, you're just playing a regular player, so you do have to play through regular players to get to your next Canis Vertex matchup, and you do have to win that Canis Vertex matchup in order for those points to be added to the global total. But at the very least, every time you play, you're going to face him the first time. And he's not a pushover, but you should be somewhat familiar with your deck by the second time you face him, if that helps. And if that helps, he's completely beatable. So, very good news. And again, this is just the first time that we're seeing something like this. It's very possible that through the course of time, the next time we get a raid-style event, or if this becomes a frequent thing, this structure is improved. Whether that is in terms of the matchup, in terms of the rewards tier, in terms of how things are functioned, how we collectively all go in on a raid. Will there be certain hours in a day or certain weekends where point totals will be doubled? I mean, there's a lot of things that Everguild can explore within this. So this is a really big thing being added to the game in this style. Can definitely make some interesting things, and hopefully this is inspiring some players who haven't played events for a while to dive in. Number one, for the challenge. Number two, for the rewards. And number three, because you feel as if you're actually contributing not just to what your lodge total is, but as a collective across the globe, which is really good, really cool. So looking forward to seeing that. Also, Trader's End did make top 10 from last event. Just wanted to point that out. I know I kind of mentioned that at some point in the video that I think one of those top 10 guys that were up there had to get bumped, and I think it was Adeptus Astartes ended up not making it, which kind of shocked me. Active Deck Builder squeezed in there, but we achieved, I think we achieved rank 5 or 6. So happy with that. Happy with this new event. Happy with the way things are going. Happy with new deck slots, baby. Let's talk about that for just a second, one more time, before we get into the results of the poll. And I'm not trying to Ryan Seacrest this out and draw these things out. I mean, you can skip forward if you're really that interested into seeing what top 3 player cards are chosen. But I like talking about the various things that have come out just within the last, 12 hours, 14 hours in the game, 15 hours. New deck slots. Now, this is really important. I've gone on and on and on at length about having a deck slot for every warlord. Now, I do not currently have the Thousand Suns Amon. I don't have him yet. I will, as soon as he's in the shop, or I might even get him in an event crate. That's entirely possible. So, currently not shown is that Amon, Magnus, and then the 4 warlords from Custodes, who I have. So that's 5 warlords. 6 warlords, right? So 1 is that new deck slot, and then if you fill up that bottom row by 5 more slots, it only leaves me with 1 more vacant slot. Now, I'm loving it, but I'm sweating bullets because, as we just saw in this event, we could be getting 3 more warlords within 2 weeks. Where are they going to go? There's only 1 more new deck slot. So I'm very thankful. I appreciate the deck slot. I have no idea how much of an effort, programming-wise, it requires. And again, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I'm willing to pay gems if they want to make that. 1 row of deck slots, 500 gems. I'll pay gems each time I want a row of deck slots. But please add multiples enough so that there is proactive planning. We're going to add 3 new warlords to the game potentially. There should be deck slots ready for go. I had a brief discussion on this Discord today with somebody who wasn't sure exactly if we needed all those deck slots, and there's a lot of reasons, and I've gone on about it at various points, at various lengths. The big reasons I champion is I think there should be a slot for every warlord, so you always have the ability to pick and choose at will without having to delete a deck. First off and foremost, I think just on a whim, if you feel like playing in one faction or the other, you shouldn't have to scrap a deck to delete it. Number 2, I've got quite a few decks that are built specifically for challenges, that are just challenge decks, that aren't even my actually true iteration of how I would normally build a deck if I wanted to build it for ladder or an actual serious match. I would build them as a completely different loadout. In that scope alone, I could require 1 to 2 to 3 different slots for that one warlord. Third, if you're playing tournaments, it's very important. It gives you options. If you know what your matchup is going to be, you can have a couple of different decks ready to go to meta, if that is allowed within the the constraints of the tournament. And then to go with that, also, sometimes you just want to practice. You just want to try things out without trashing your main build or taking cards out of your main build. Just throw a practice deck together to try things out. And something else for the moderators on the Discord who are doing the Crucible format, which I didn't think of, and that's actually really true. Those guys don't they don't have slots for their Crucible warlords when the time comes for them to do the Crucible challenges, and that's Primarchs. That's the Titans. I mean, that there's a plethora. They would have to just delete decks just to build decks for the Crucible challenge so that players can get that experience. So, long story short, there's a lot of reasons. And some may not matter to everybody, but they matter enough to me that I will continue to ask for them, continue to respect it when it is given to us. I greatly appreciate it. I really hope that at the end of this event, especially if we're getting 3 new warlords, that we also get an additional row of deck slots to go with it, or shortly thereafter, because it just works. It just makes sense that way. And I mean, geez, we're not even into. We've still got Ultramarines, Word Bearers, White Scars, Imperial Fists, Dark Angels, Blood Angels, and who knows what other little side factions that have not been added to the game. Each of which should have 4 warlords. That's a lot of slots that we need. So, preemptively give it to us, please. So, with that being said, let's get into the results here of the Istvaan 2, or Istvaan 5 rather, this little here, the Istvaan 5 expansion. Now this expansion here, these are the top 3 cards as chosen by the players from the Discord, throughout the week that I pulled. This faction introduced the Iron Hands, the Salamanders, and the Raven Guard. In addition to that, it introduced a small range of neutral cards, some of which are useful today, some of which were more useful than they at the time. So there's some good pool there. Now I do have to say, unfortunately, and with the way polls go sometimes, what did I get? Oh, that's right, I got Amon. I got him today from the crates. I was like, what is new? What could be new? I have the whole thing. Now I know. So with that, with the poll, I did not get as many votes as I would have liked. I would always like to get a lot of people come in. I think the highest, I don't know, off the top of my head, I think I've gotten over 50, 60 people voted in one of the polls, which was really great. I like to hear people's opinions. I ran it for a week. I did not get as many votes as I've gotten on some of the more recent polls, but I still did get votes enough to make a determination as far as based off of what people were saying, based off of the discussion with the top 3. Top 3 Istvaan 5 expansion cards as chosen by the players. So number 3, coming in at number 3, comes to us from the Raven Guard, and it is actually the Warlord Corvus Corax. Now, Corvus Corax has seen a change to his whispers, but he is still a very good warlord. He's got a decent faction. He's a very combo-based faction. He's got ability to hide, to stealth as long as your opponent leaves themselves troops out there that you can take advantage of that. He's unstoppable. He's currently one of 2 warlords in the game who are unstoppable, which makes a huge difference late game against somebody who thinks that they can spam frontline and you've got Raven's Talons sitting there. He has just been, I mean, from when he came out, for quite some time, he was always putting pressure on the game. He still can put pressure on the game. He's still in a decent spot. He's not as good as he used to be because of his whisper change, but that didn't really limit him. It just changed the way people played him. So he ends up getting the number 3 slot in terms of player's choice for best card from the Istvaan 5 expansion. Now, number 2 card comes out of the neutral card pool, and that comes out of the Chaos side, which gave us Artillery Strike. And Artillery Strike here is still played today in a lot of decks. It's a very good card. It's 1 point less than Defensive Satellites, but what Defensive Satellites lacked was the reliability, and Artillery Strike suddenly gave that reliability to us. We knew that we were going to get 2 damage. We knew that it was going to do up to 3 random enemies, which is not too hard to manage through the course of the game. It's very easy to pull off, especially if you're playing on curve that could wipe your opponent's board out, as well as deal damage to their warlord. So this is a good card, and Chaos has a wide pool of random damage cards, but Artillery Strike definitely deserves those votes. I think that's one that I voted for, and It's a number two player choice card. I think it still holds up. I think Korax holds up. He's, like I said, he's tapered off in play, but we've also gotten, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 new factions with an additional 4 warlords. So there's 24 more warlords added to the game. So through the course of that time, I would expect that his exposure is going to be a little bit more limited. Artillery Strike can go in any deck, especially direct damage decks, tactic spam decks. I mean, Artillery Strike serves a wide range of tools. So a good choice. And then the number one card actually comes out of also the neutral card pool. It comes out of the Imperial Army card pool, and it is Abandoned Supplies. And Abandoned Supplies, I don't think it was a top 3 neutral card which was my very first player poll, but I believe it was either an honorable mention, very close to being a top 3. Abandoned Supplies still sees play to this day. It is a great card. If you start out with it, you're getting you're drawing a card, but you're reducing its cost. It's very possible to draw, a 6 cost, reduce it to 4, and be able to play it much earlier, and that can throw off a whole game. That can throw off a whole game for your opponent, especially if it's a hard-to-kill thing, or if it's a devastating tactic or the like. It just puts you 2 turns ahead. If you get it, something like that. If you don't, it just lets you play an additional card on your next turn or turn down the road that you normally wouldn't be able to squeeze in there. It works with Therius and Pale Spear. It works with any deck that you want to cycle through. Earlier on, we had the Tactic Angron, which tried to draw as many cards as possible to get to what he was looking for to finish the game. Abandoned Supplies was one of those tools that he used. As time goes on, I think we see a few less Abandoned Supplies because there's more cards and it's tighter to fit 2 times of it in. Plus, some people kind of get tired of sometimes they draw Abandoned Supplies with Abandoned Supplies. So it's kind of like a wasted... You're getting through 1 card, but you're still getting the same effect, but it takes you 1 more turn to play it. And then we also got Void Engagement that adds card draw and damage to the game. So there's some other options, but it is still a very good card. I forgot about this card when I made my choices, but I agree that this is probably in terms of longevity, in terms of ability, it's a common. It's got just great use for almost every warlord. There's no reason why you shouldn't consider it, especially if you're running a decent amount of troops above the cost of 4. Like if you're running 5 and 6 troops, man, 5 and 6 troops, but you draw an Abandoned Supplies in your starting hand, you could put yourself at a pretty good place, and you could feel good about it. So that's it. Those are your top 3 Player's Choice cards for the Istvaan V expansion. Again, the votes were a little bit limited. I don't know, honestly, though, if we had another 10, 15 people voting, if that would have thrown off these 3 choices. Maybe the 3rd slot could have been something else. A honorable mention was a really tight call between the Pyroclasts of the Salamanders. I think just shy by 1 point here to squeeze it into the top 3. The Zathan Pyroclast, these guys here, and just a beefy ability, and the ability to deal 2 damage and continue to press up that just, brother, give me the flamer, the heavy flamer, and then they just heavy flame the shit out of shit. They're just burning. These guys are beef. You don't like them when they hit the table, and it's later in the game, but if you're a Salamander player, you can appreciate what the Pyroclasts bring to the table. So I think they were 1 point off from being in there, and then I think another card that just squeezed out under them was the Scimitar Jet Bikes, which again is a Raven Guard's a powerful card. It's very, very integral in the Raven Guard game plan, as well as what allowed them to stay on top of things for so long, because they were one of the first good flanking cards. They came out cheap, they came out hard, they had pressure that you had to respond to on the following turn. We've seen some other flankers added to the game over the course of time, but if you're playing Raven Guard, these guys are 2 times. They're a must for sure. There's no reason why you wouldn't have them unless you just don't have them in your collection. So, with that being said, that is the player votes. Those are the results of the player votes. We've talked about the event. We've talked about the deck slots. We've talked about how happy today is. It's a Friday, man. Happy Friday. Feel it. Dig it. Dig it. let's talk briefly about what's coming up. The next thing I'm planning on doing, I think I might do some maybe another training cage video or not. Although I'll tell you, if I can put a little bit more pressure into this event, I'd like to do an event breakdown. I'd like to get a couple profiles out there for players. If I've got time this weekend, the time's going to be a little bit tight for me, but it would be good to do that, just to share that information with the players. So if you've got the choices, you know what to go for. We'll see. We'll see if I can get that in or not. Otherwise, we're looking at probably a training cage video. I might do a spotlight as far as the Warlord, the deck I'm running, which I think I should do that too with what I'm running this season, because it's fun to do, and it's been a while since I've done a deck spotlight. It's been a while since I've done something like that. So we'll see. I got some stuff. I got some stuff to work on. In addition to that, I'm working on some other stuff that's a little bit more long-term project goal. I like things to pan out, so we'll see how that goes. Whoa! Oh God! Oh no! Oh, Matt Hather. Matt looks good, and Muspel and Matt, and there's some good warlords to choose here in this event. Bjorn was not bad at all either. Good variety. So, with that being said, I'm going to get out of here. Everybody enjoy your Friday night. Good luck. Get those points for Canis Vertex, because, baby, we want these warlords. We want to see this in the game. This is going to be fun for people. This is going to be fun for people, not just for veteran players, for people who haven't played the game or are kind of interested, and then they see this and it can be inspiring. It could be depressing. I mean, they're not going to... A Loken is not just going to run into Canis Vertex. It's just not going to happen. Starter deck Loken is never going to run into Canis Vertex, but it's something for them to aspire to, and that's good for the game. So keep it coming. Keep those points coming. Let's do it collectively. All right. Keep playing Legions. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.
And now it's time for Chewbacca Believe It. He's got the good stuff. Starting off with Chewbacca in my opening hand. Yeah, that always makes me happy. But I've got to be honest with you. Chewbacca against an Alfarius player, whether it's a bot or not, is always a dangerous possibility. Because you build up that hand with a bunch of cards, and then you just leave yourself vulnerable to the harrowing. And thankfully, the cards I've got in my hand, in conjunction with that card that I just got there, Ghost Legionary, they're relatively cheap and affordable, and I can still afford to use Six's ability to pump things up. I'm going to go ahead. Potentially I could have used that, his ability to pump up Chewbacca and keep him around longer, but I want him disposable at some point in time. Too much, too little. Not a good idea with Chewbacca. But if I get my cards at a point where I like what I see, I'm going to keep it. And then things just get crazier because the bot, for whatever reason, just doesn't want to go after that pesky Chewbacca because it's put a secret order on it. So he's going to continue to eat his own medicine from a saboteur squad. Which, okay, that's a good decision there, bot. You're why? Just gonna let Six do what Six does. Maybe. Better believe it. And then things here just get crazier. And I'm actually kind of glad I didn't throw out any more stealth at that point. I was tempted with that Shadow Walk. But you gotta get rid of those Joker Company. And the bot, I think, runs 2, if I remember correctly. It would not surprise me. Just eating it. Just eating his own medicine. At this point, the only thing that he can do is copy his own cards. Copy my cards. And I'll pay more cost to play his own card against him to shut him out. It's beginning to get a little ridiculous. So at this point, I decide that I might want to consider dumping that Chewbacca pretty quickly. And I want to open up into some more powerful cards that I've got in my hand. Now that my hand's reaching critical capacity. But, let's go ahead and end it. Chewbacca, believe it.
Alright, that wraps it up for me. If you liked what you saw, feel free to like and subscribe, add any comments below, and if you think the video might be useful or the series might be useful, feel free to share that with other players that you know as well. And we'll talk to you later.